Hey, I'm on location again. I'm back near 5 Points this time. This is a really cool little spot. Little alley shops here, tiny little stores where small businesses can kind of get a foothold. Some of them have been here for a really long time. Really cool spot there called Defunct Books right behind me. There was a great little local only bookstore that sold a bunch of copies of my last book. Chuck Beard, his spot was awesome in there. He's still in the community doing really great things, but that bookstore is no longer there. But I wanted to take a minute to talk about another of the characters. There's another character that's kind of made up of an amalgam of a lot of different people I've known over the years. A guy named Cesar Jimenez. Before we moved to Nashville, we lived in an almost entirely Hispanic neighborhood outside of Chicago in Aurora, Illinois. And actually, there's a lot that I miss about Aurora. I also have some adopted family that are from Mexico and have always felt a lot of affinity for Mexican culture, the music and the food and just the people, the warmth. And our next door neighbors, when we lived in Aurora, were very, very sweet people, invited us over to their house most weekends. They were celebrating something. And so I named Cesar after my neighbor in Aurora. Lost touch with him when I went back up to see if they were still there. They'd moved away. So I'm hoping that Cesar finds this somehow. But the character was a combination of a lot of different people that I've met over the years. And we trace his story all the way back to the 50s, actually. Although he comes to America in about 1959 and he comes to Nashville sometime in the 70s. So I did a lot of research on that and leaned on some family and friends, and I sent a lot of that stuff that I wrote to different people to make sure that I got the tone right. But I really wanted to capture lots of different perspectives on not only Nashville, but also on music and about the way that music impacts different people. A lot of times when we listen to music, we're hearing it from our perspective, and so the first thing we hear, it's kind of like food, the first thing we taste is what's different about it. But when we listen carefully and we talk to other people, we can find out how much it has in common, especially in how people use music and what music does for them in terms of eliciting memories and processing emotions, things like that. And Cesar, there's a moment in the story where Cesar does something, and this is one of the first times this ever happened for me as a writer. I was off in a cabin working on this, and I had really gotten in the zone. I was playing the music on a speaker. I was flowing. It was really, really late, and I thought Cesar was going to meet the other characters in a certain way, and then he did something that surprised me, and from that point on, I felt like I was just transcribing the story. It didn't feel like I was controlling it, more like I was watching it happen in my mind, and I was just trying to write as feverishly as I could. But I really, really enjoyed that process, and then also taking that really rough kind of lump of clay and refining it really carefully. So I hope that you enjoy that, and I hope that it comes off with the heart that I intended to. But to Cesar, my neighbor from Aurora, and Irma, his wife, who I offended greatly one time asking her the recipe for her marinade for her steak tacos. She thought that something must be wrong if I was asking her what the ingredients were, because she wasn't used to the idea that a guy would want to know how to cook. But to Cesar and Irma, I hope that maybe somehow you find this and you know how much we miss you guys. And to everybody else in Aurora, our former hometown, this one's for you. And to everybody from south of the border, we thank you for the joy that you bring, the sense of community that you bring as well. We love you. So anyway, to Cesar and everybody like you, we love you. Peace.